name's John Davies. I'm Vice President with GreenBiz, and I'm here in Studio C with Adel Ebeid, the Chief Innovation Officer of the City of Philadelphia. Welcome, Adel.
Thank you, John. It's good to be here.
So, Adel, I saw you up on stage there, and just curious, what is the job of Chief Innovation Officer for the City of Philadelphia?
So it's an interesting new role. It was created about back in August of 2011, and it came out of the recognition that we needed to bring technology from the back office out in front, right? Engage the citizens in the community, engage the business community, and figure out really how to integrate the physical capital, the intellectual capital, and the social capital, fuse them all together so that we can not only improve the digital quality of life in the community, but also just really bring technology from the back office out in the front.
So now, that's interesting because Chief Innovation Officer isn't your only job at the city. So what else are you responsible
different
for?
cities use the job and the role in different ways. In Philadelphia, the CIO also, the Chief Innovation Officer is also the Chief Infrastructure Officer, the Chief Information Officer, Chief Technology Officer. So all of those roles are rolled up into one role, which has its pluses and its minuses. On the upside, I yield quite a bit of horizontal influence. On the downside, is it could be distracting. So I also oversee the technology portfolio across the city, but also accountable for being innovative, sourcing of ideas, and figuring out how technology could be used to engage neighborhoods and communities.
So you introduced me to a new phrase, so I'm going to ask you about it. Tell me about urban mechanics.
Urban mechanics, yeah, it's a program that we're pretty proud of. Urban mechanics actually began here in Boston under Mayor Menino. And so we stole the idea, but it's a great idea. Urban mechanics are, it's an office that reports directly to the mayor, physically situated right in City Hall, and they are responsible for helping the community solve problems by bringing together different parties to the table, whether it's government, whether it's the venture capital, early stage, tech community, the private sector. They bring them all together to sort of, they talk about civic fusion as a way to let all these different parties kind of sort of fuse together so that we can solve regular day-to-day problems and get away from government being the only entity that could really solve problems. It's led by two great folks, Story Bellows and Jeff Friedman, and we are extensions of each other. They are obviously outward focused, and we provide them the resources to get the job done. They recently won an award, a Bloomberg Award, for $1 million to try to really take the idea into reality. They're encouraged to take risk. They are encouraged to really push the envelope, and it's a great program in Philadelphia. I believe we're the second to implement it, and we're looking to really learn quite a bit from Boston, but also improve and give back to Boston.
So now, is there a role for big data in that kind of program?
Absolutely. I mean, we talk about open data and big data. So open data in Philadelphia is really about government being as transparent as possible and publishing as much of the data that it collects. Data is used as a currency in Philadelphia. And what I mean by that is that we have tech companies and startups who are looking to develop their business plan, produce a product or a service, monetize that, and be successful. And sometimes data could be the real currency or the real asset that could help them do that. We in turn have problems and issues that need to be resolved, and sometimes liberating the data and letting some of these folks help us solve these problems is a real plus. It's a win-win. Data is the matchmaker between the two entities, and it works very well for us in Philadelphia.
So are there any solutions that have sort of percolated up that were surprising to you, that without freeing up this data you never would have figured out that there was something going on there and then able to address it?
Well, I mean, so it could be, last December we published the largest amount of crime data going back to 2006. It's the first time that's really has ever been done, frankly. And that allowed a lot of folks to understand quite a bit about what type of crimes are happening around them. It also allowed the tech community to sort of take that data, blend it with other data, and produce some different and more meaningful visuals. Helping Philadelphians visualize their budget rather than publishing 700 pages of a budget handbook that most folks just cannot really consume. And we talked about that this morning. Helping folks just understand where they can get involved in Philadelphia. The sense of community and neighborhood is very strong in Philadelphia. And most folks actually who grew up in a neighborhood some are likely never to leave that neighborhood. They just, that's where they grew up, that's where they stay. Helping them understand where they can get involved, how they can volunteer, what events are around them. We have a great successful program called Philly Rising that's being spearheaded by the managing director, Rich Nigrin. That's a program that is sort of low tech, but extremely high impact, where we go into distressed neighborhoods and figure out how to bring all the resources from the government, from the private sector, from the local neighborhood, and revive that neighborhood and sort of teach folks how to take their neighborhood back, and make it into the place that they were proud of at one point.
So that gets to another point we had talked about. That also involves another peer of yours in the city, the Chief Sustainability Officer. So how does that relationship work, and what kind of things has she been working on?
Yeah, Catherine is the Chief Sustainability Officer, and she's probably one of those silent soldiers that's done a tremendous amount of job behind the scene, really orchestrating the many moving parts and dimensions of sustainability. She oversees the Green Works program, which in 2008 started out with a vision of Mayor Michael Nutter basically stating that he wants Philadelphia to be the greenest city in the country. Tall order, but he believes in it, he's very passionate about it, and he's hired people around him who are very passionate about it as well, and Catherine is one of those. She's established 5 goal areas, 15 targets, and about north of 160 initiatives, and as of the last update in 2012, almost 23% of those initiatives were completed, and over 60% are still in progress. So she's a quiet voice, but a very influential voice behind the scene, and she's really doing quite a bit focused on, again, energy, economy, engagement, equity, all the dimensions that need to be fused together for sustainability to work, and for urban effectiveness to be possible in Philadelphia.